This is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to be using the Masterbuilt MPS230 propane smoker to do some ribs. First of all, I went ahead and preheated the smoker, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load up the chips. Because we're doing pork ribs, I'm going to go ahead and use the hickory chips because I want to get a little bit more flavor in and not have to reload it as much. But if I were going to go for a longer, slower cook, what I would do is I would go with something sweeter like pecan or apple. But because I don't want to feed a bunch of wood chips in all the time, I'm going to just go ahead and use the hickory. I'll go ahead and show you this, and I kind of made a little mountain up there, and then I'm just going to smash the middle down just low enough to go in the smoker. Around the edges is the hardest part to burn, so if you do put it in, that will burn out a little bit slower that way, and this edges might not even get completely burned up, and we want to make sure that we don't waste any wood chips. I have the smoker set on the lowest setting, and we're getting about 200 with the propane on. The tank is always set to full, and the adjustment knob is set to the lowest. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the ribs here. What we have here is a baby back rib, which they also call a pork loin rib at my butcher shop, but I'm not familiar too much with that term. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the silver skin. Always take the silver skin off. If you don't want to, you don't have to. What I have here is I have a butter knife with no serrated edge. If you have only ones with serrated edges, you can file those off. I take it and I stick it right along the back of one of the bones. Sometimes you have to fold it a little bit to get the back there, and I'm working it in towards the top, the dullest part of the knife. The idea is to get this skin to lift off so you can get your thumbs in there like this. Once you get your thumb in, get it through, and then you've got it completely. And I'm going to come up a little closer to the camera so you can see this. I've got my thumb in here and my fingers all the way through, and then slowly pull it off. If it breaks, you'll just have to grab a paper towel and grab onto it again. But look at how well that's coming off. And just like that, all gone in one piece. That rarely happens, but when it does, it's like party time. On this, it's already trimmed evenly, but if you had a piece that wasn't trimmed well, you'd want to trim it up to make it cook evenly. There's a little piece hanging off the side here. I'm going to go ahead and trim that off just because it'll be hard to keep symmetrical. Then I'm going to count the rib bones. This one happens to be 14, usually it's 13. So then I'll go ahead and count over 7. And then I'll trim right in the middle. I usually do it from the back so I can get a clear view of the ribs, and I'll lift it up so I don't cut onto the surface below, and I'll show you that in a second. So now we have 2 nice pieces. They're just about even. If it's an off number, I always cut this one at 7 and this one at 6 bones, so the bigger one ends up with less bones. So next thing, we have our grill mat. I'm going to go ahead and set that in here on the cooking surface. And today we're going to go right up here. So we're going to try to run the smoker as low as possible, and we'll keep that up near the top. I'm going to pull this out just a touch and see that that's where I want it, and then I'll push this closed. Then when I go ahead and load that, I'll make sure it's right in the right spot. Been a lot of conversation on a lot of the Facebook groups lately about binders, and I use binders occasionally. For my binders, I usually use honey or mustard. Sometimes I'll use a flavored mustard like a Dijon or a honey mustard, for example, but mostly I just use that. Today I'm avoiding sugars, but normally I would put a little bit of brown sugar and mix all the spices in a side bowl. But when I'm not adding brown sugar, I don't find it necessary to mix them all on the side. Because it's pork, I like to take my normal mix and add a little extra garlic to it. So I'll lightly sprinkle garlic across the top of the whole surface. Touch windy outside today. And I did set this on the counter for about 5 minutes, so it really tacked up. It's completely dry on the outside. This is my normal 3-2-1-1, and just repeat it for everybody. 3 pepper, 2 garlic, 1 smoked paprika, and 1 kosher salt, smoked if you have it. I make my own smoked salt, so I almost always have it. When I make it on camera, I don't normally do it with the smoked salt, but when I don't make it on camera, I almost always do. I'm going to bring this up here to the camera. So I want you to take a look at this, and that is not quite as much seasoning as I'm going for. We're going to try again. Okay, this is a little better. So take a look at that. There's a little on the edges, but today I'm not going to try to overdo it on the edge. So I'll just take a little bit, get a little bit more on there, pick it up off the surface, and then we're going to go ahead and open the smoker. Drop just a little bit in temperature. So I'm going to find a spot for the big one first. And I'm going to put the arch part to the back and the edge part to the front. So the fattier part will be in the middle, just like that. And then, with that little piece that I trimmed off, I'm going to put that right here in the middle, and that'll be a snack. Go ahead and close it. And I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here for 15 minutes and I'm going to make sure that that gets up to 225. I want to cook in the 225 to 235 range here. If I cook any less than that, it just won't be done the way I want it to. And if it gets a little over 235 and cooks a little faster, that's fine. I can wrap it in foil when it's done and in a couple of towels and throw it in the cooler or in the set it in the oven to rest for an hour, which is fine because that'll help the juices flow freely and redistribute and keep it nice and moist. We will be back here in a few minutes, and then for you, it'll be a couple of seconds. For me, it'll be 2 hours. It's been a little over 2 hours, and we've been having a little bit of trouble maintaining our temperature because every time I get my temperature set just right, a couple of wind gusts will come through and the temperature gets messed up. Then it'll settle down and the temperature will go back up again. I went ahead and got it adjusted and was able to get it right in just under 225 consistently. So a little up, a little down. That'll just slow us down a little bit. I don't like to go much less than that though. I'm going to go ahead and show you some pictures here. First, I want to show you a picture of the ashtray, the ash pan. Those ashes burnt completely up, just like they were planned to, so they are completely used, and it burned for more than the first hour of the cooking process. Next, I want to show you a picture of the current temperature. I just stuck the probe in and checked the temperature on that, And that's a really nice temperature for where we're at in the cooking process. I would like to see a little bit higher, but we have plenty of time, so we're not in any rush here. Next, we're gonna grab out a little piece here. This is the piece on the side. I'm gonna temp it first. This little piece is 172 degrees. That's a really good temperature for a little snack here. I'm gonna pull off a little bit there. Bring this up to the camera and see if we can get it to focus. And you can see that there's a nice little smoke ring there. That is really yummy. And like I said before, I'm trying to avoid sugars right now. I have a little bit of sugar-free barbecue sauce, which I might use on this, but for the most part, this doesn't need barbecue sauce. We just need to make sure that it cooks slowly and doesn't over dry out. So this piece right here is right on the edge. If I let it sit a little bit, I'm sure some of the juices in it would redistribute, but it's such a small piece that a lot of the juices probably dripped off. We're gonna go ahead and let this keep cooking, and we're really just keeping that temperature down. Also, when the wood stops smoking, the temperature dropped just a little bit. We'll come back to this in a few seconds for you, but probably an hour and a half for me. I checked on them a few minutes ago and they were looking really good. I was thinking about flipping them, but I went ahead and just left them the way they were. If I had, if I was gonna sauce them, I would take them and probably throw them on the grill on the propane grill to burn them off a little bit. First, let's just go ahead and turn this off, and then I'll close this. If I didn't point it out earlier, there's a fire extinguisher sitting right over there, and I always have that handy, especially when I'm using propane or charcoal or wood. That looks pretty good. Let's take a second here and I'm gonna get a picture. Okay, so I'll throw that picture right up there for you. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out, grill mat and all. One of the things I really like about these trays is with that little holder there, you can push the cookie sheet up against it and then pull your food out and it stays right in place. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this. I usually keep a cooling rack on top here. This is like for cookies or cakes, and I just keep it on top here, and then I can set stuff up there and it keeps it from getting too hot. It's also a great place to warm up your pan if you want to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up here and show you a close-up of it. Let's back up a little bit. Now I'm going to cut it. Let's bring it up and give you another little close-up. When I grabbed that, it was juicy. All right, so let's take a look here. And there's a nice layer right across the top of meat and plenty of juice right in there. It is definitely warm. And I'm just going to take one big bite right there out of the middle. I was really wanting barbecue sauce on these, but with the taste, it doesn't need them. There's just the right amount of spices on there. and it could use more smoked paprika, but totally just kidding. It is just the right amount. And because of the amount of fat that's in the baby backs, it really is a perfect cook there. We ran just about, I want to say, maybe 5 hours. I'm gonna take another bite. Boy, that's good. So we still have like an hour and a half until dinner time. So I'm gonna wrap these in foil, and then I'm gonna set them inside a beach towel and double roll them, and then just set them aside, either, you know, in a cooler or in the oven, and they'll be just fine. And they will get a little, actually the juice will actually get better when you do that. Let's talk about this for a second. Anybody who watches my channel a lot knows that this is a gear channel. I cook for you. I, love to cook, but mostly what we're focusing on is the gear. And this is the last cook that I'm going to be doing with this. This unit belongs to my sister, and so I'll be taking it over to her house, and it has performed really well. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was the lack of a traditional chip tray. And as you've seen, I just went to the local store and bought a pan to go in there. And this is just a standard cast iron pan. Any 10-inch or 9-inch will work just fine. I wouldn't go any larger than that, and if you wanted to go a little smaller, you probably could, and it'd work out just fine. But they're not expensive to add these to it. And you'll also need to get yourself a propane tank. Everything has worked out really good. Most important accessory always is the grill mats. Add that to this, and you'll be really happy. If you wanted to, I would suggest adding a secondary thermometer. It is a little tough to balance the temperature, and when it's under propane power, I really can't get it much under 200, but that doesn't matter because under about 180, it's really hard to get consistent smoke out of just about any smoker, unless it's got a direct contact electric element, and then you need to use fine wood chips. With this one, I would recommend not using fine wood chips. I would recommend using either coarse wood chips or small wood chunks for the best results. If you take this smoker up to a temperature that's a little too high, like let's say you take it up into the 450 range, your wood chips will combust. And that's not going to do any good for anybody. You can cook all the way up into that temperature, and that's fine, but you're using it more as an oven. And if it's well seasoned, you're still going to get all those good flavors. So again, like I said, it's a gear channel. So my review of this is that this is a good unit to have, especially if you were looking to do something to take camping with you. This would be great if you had like a small trailer or something like a toy hauler where you could just toss it in the back right next to your other stuff with your propane tank. The price is not very expensive. You can see the links below and it'll take you right to the item. Any of the links in the description are affiliate links, and I will get compensated for that. Directly below will be the review article, and then we'll put a couple of different recipe articles in there so that way you can check some other stuff out. Check some more of these videos out for this smoker, and I hope you enjoyed them all. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.